Excited about your life? How many of you guys are choosing to be excited about your business in spite of, right? Despite the obstacles, despite whatever's happened in life, right? Let's choose it. And so, um, we're about to have a Friday financial kind of a segment here today. But I want to start off by talking to you guys about the importance of leadership. Leadership is the lifeblood of our business, especially those of us who are looking to build agency, right? So if you're looking to build agency, put a one in the chat real quick if that's something that you're endeavoring to do here in our Infinite Company. And let me tell you why you are in the best place to do so, right? Our Infinite Company, you guys, has broken the mold when it comes to situating agents to build agency. Okay. If you're someone who got into this industry like me and you said, hey, I don't want to be a transactional agent, Kyrie. I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. Right. I could have, be honest with you, like I made pretty decent money at my job if I wanted to just trade time for value for the rest of my life, right? I could have stayed at my W-2. But when I looked at this industry, David, I said, wow, generations, right? I wanted to build a legacy. I wanted to build some generational wealth. Can you guys hear me? I'm getting messages that my internet connection is unstable. Okay, cool. And so leadership is the lifeblood of building agency, right? We've been hearing Hans talk about this lately a lot, where he's been saying you have to lead first, you have to become the leader first, right? Absolutely right. It's all about duplication, right? If I made a pot of whatever, okay, food, okay, whatever I put into that pot is what my future team and agency is going to eat from. Okay. So if I'm undisciplined, I'm going to duplicate a lack of discipline into my agency. Right. But if I am disciplined, I'm going to duplicate discipline into my agency. You guys understand what I'm saying? In this business, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. Right. And it starts with being the leader first. What I love about our Infinite Company also, we talk about base shop and we talk about infinite base shop. Right. In base shop, it keeps you honest. What do I mean by that, Kyrie? Listen, I got an email yesterday that said I met the infinite base shop requirements. What that means is if you don't meet the base shop requirements, meaning that you can have the biggest team in OIC ever, and if your immediate base shop numbers don't meet a certain criteria, okay, then you gotta talk to home office about that because there's no false prophets here. All right. And so it keeps you honest, it keeps you accountable, but it all starts with leadership. And so I'm gonna give you guys 10 things before I open up the call to our other leader real quick that I want you guys to write down. Okay. Number one, vision before visibility. Okay. Vision before visibility. All right. What I'm building that will outlive me. What am I building that'll outlive me? Right? Super important to wake up and understand your vision, your calling. We say, hey, come for the calling every morning, come for the calling. Right. And we have the opportunity to choose. Number two, discipline over emotion. All right. Make the calls, book the appointments, recruit consistently, follow up relentlessly. Success becomes inevitable when discipline becomes identity. Wow. Success becomes inevitable when discipline becomes identity. All right. Uh, there's a author that I love. He wrote The Placebo Effect. I can't think of his name right now. Okay, but he is a neurologist. He always talks about neurosciences, and he says that if you have an emotional disposition for longer than an hour, it becomes a temperament, right? And if it lasts for longer than 12 hours, it becomes an attitude. And if you wear it for more than a day, it becomes a part of your character. How many of us are wearing significant emotional events as a part of our character right? Our facial expressions, our body language, right? Our demeanor, our mannerisms, even though these events that created the emotion that we wear now as a part of our character, they happened a long time ago, right? And so this is why it's discipline over emotion, right? Three, leaders, they build people, not just production, as we all know, right? The greatest product is another leader. The greatest product is another leader. Number four, ownership mentality. Okay. Excuses destroy it. Ownership creates influence, excuses destroy it, right? So having an attitude of ownership. How many of you guys understand that our Infinite Company is your company? Be leery of people who talk about OIC as though OIC is something separate from them. Because if you were talking negatively about OIC, you're actually talking about you. OIC is a company full of people, right? And you are the people that make the company. So if I say, you know, let's take it out of the context of OIC. And let's say the football team or the basketball team, the volleyball team, the softball team, whatever, right? And I'm on this team. And I start saying they need to do this and they need to do that. Do I sound like I'm a part of that team? Absolutely not. Right? So, an attitude of ownership says, hey, when I show up every morning, I am OIC. The problem I find is the problem I fix. And OIC is honoring that disposition. You know how? They're giving you equity. They said, listen, we'll appreciate your ownership by giving you equity in this company. So we always say, operate with an equity state of mind. Operate with an equity state of mind. All right? Get it? Empire state of mind, equity state of mind. Try to put that together. Anyway, number 6, the recruit opportunity, not desperation. So leaders recruit opportunity, not desperation. Right? So infinite leaders don't convince, they attract. They become living proof that the opportunity works. People join confidence, people follow conviction, and people duplicate consistency. So let me land right there for 2 seconds. When it comes to milestones, right? Because I got some real humble leaders on this team, and I appreciate it. Hans Augustine, he's always like, I don't know. I don't really want to post my wins, bro. Hans just start posting his wins. Like took me like 18 months to say, Hans, post your wins, post your wins. I don't really like talking about me. Kyrie, same thing. I don't really know, man. I don't want to post my wins. What I want you guys to understand is, okay, the milestone isn't for us as leaders. When I hit a milestone, BD, 6 figures, $250,000, equity partner, it's not for me. I'm promoting it as a possibility for the people behind me. And I'm branding myself as a qualified leader. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Right? The milestone is only there to qualify your opinion as the leader. If I don't qualify myself as the leader, why would I follow you? Why would I show up on your call? Why would I get in the car with you and go wherever you say the promised land is? Because there's a lot of voices out here talking. But how do I become the voice of influence? This is the show business and not the no business. In this business, people don't care about how much you know. They care about what you can show. So you promote your wins to say, hey, I'm qualified in regards to the value that I bring to the table when I open my mouth. It's a qualified opinion. It's not a valued opinion. See, we got a lot of valued opinions, but how do I qualify my opinion? gotta show you that I'm winning. See, the objective of a team is to win, yes? If we're not trying to win, why be a team? We might as well be a bunch of solopreneurs. The objective of a team is to win. So if I'm not promoting winning as the culture and the lifeblood here, right, then I'm actually, as a leader, failing my team. Okay. So I wanted to give you guys that. Listen, it's okay to compartmentalize your wins as not being proud or not being, like you flexing. It's not an ego driven activity. It's actually a marketing skill so that you can grow and develop other winners that follow you as a leader. Does this make sense to everybody? Right? Okay, good stuff. And my personal philosophy is a lot of us have done far more for far less. Okay, right? We could go outside right now. We got family, they flexing at the barbecue grill. They flexing like it's always a flex, right? But when we get in business and we start working for God, we want to get humble. God's saying, listen, keep that same energy. All right, for me. All right. So, number 7, they multiply leaders. All right. Who can replace me is what the leader is always asking. Okay. Who can replace me? Who can I go serve? Who can I go develop? Right. If the answer is nobody, you're not leading. All right. So, number 8, humility creates growth. Okay. So, they seek correction before they seek recognition. All right. Number 9, legacy over lifestyle. Legacy over lifestyle, delayed gratification. Okay. Leaders are not, again, Mary Grace is on the call. Perfect example. Always talks about the mommy van. It's about legacy, right? Drive a mommy van, but it's paid for. I could live somewhere, a lot bigger, but my house is paid for, right? Legacy over lifestyle. One thing that I loved about OIC when I got here was their brand of success. I had just left another company where the CEO was promoting literally a qualification where you can have a helicopter excursion with him. I had left that company, Mark, and when I got to OIC, I saw a brand of success that was so different. And I was like, this is what I'm after. You know, humble money, quiet money, right? Money that kind of speaks for itself, right? And then lastly, guys, number 10, they leave everything better than they found it. Leaders leave everything better than they found it. So I hope you guys wrote that down. All right. I'm going to turn the call over to none other than Mr. Hans Augustin. We're going to go over some financial tips. So I hope you guys have your pen and pad ready. I'm going to take some notes as well. But Mr. Augustin, the floor is yours, sir.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Samar. Good morning, organizational members and team members. I was telling our earlier call today that sometimes when you get a chance to sit down, yesterday I got sat down because I could not find my keys to leave the house. Just I don't know where it was. All of a sudden, all the other cars are gone because everybody's doing their summer thing or at work. And I was sat still for about a good 8-hour period until I found that set of keys. I couldn't even find a spare key. But what it gave me a chance yesterday, guys, was to just sit still. I still went through some routines. I did all my appointments. I made some calls, and I got some wins yesterday. But what the best win yesterday for me was the 8 o'clock showdown call. Now let me tell you why I haven't won in that space yet is because I'm not consistent there yet. And so I know how to self-evaluate, guys. And one of the things that I do is in self-evaluation is how well is something moving forward for me or not. So what that meant was that if I want to win in that particular space, I have to become a better student and a better giver in that space. Now I've done well enough but there's more opportunity for people to understand financially what we're doing. But you guys are going to have a chance in the coming weeks once the academy is. So I'm prepping you. If you have not read this book, I need you to go ahead and pull it because even I got a phone call this morning. Hey, you read this book yet? I've read through it, but I haven't read it yet, honestly. And so what that means is if I had that book for months, the Laser book, by Doug Andrews, and I've read through some of the parts. So I'm going to give you through the parts that I've read, but I'm going to also end up showing you guys a bit of an illustration that I really had a magical moment yesterday that nobody else knew about. I think Nick Rios was on the call, a couple, five, six, seven people were on the call, and I was like, wow, if they were impacted, how many more other people would be impacted if they had a chance just to be aware? And there's something that Mr. Robinson said earlier today on the first call that he hosted with the Spark call, and I was listening to that. And he says, "You think people understand what you're doing? They do not. They've never been exposed to this information. So what might be normal to you is not normal to everybody else." So number one, I want you guys to grab a pen and paper. Number two, I need you to pay attention to when this IUL Academy is about to pop up. Number three, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because one of the things that I've been doing over the month of July and June was there was some goals that I had for June that I did not obtain. And I started asking myself why. But that's just self-evaluation. That's not anything else but then, hey, that's fine, whatever you made as a potential mistake. But then how do I improve so I can get to the goal that I desire? So that means there is no such thing as quit in Hans Augustine. If you meet Hans Augustine, that means you're meeting a non-quitter. So what that means is that some years ago I used to stop and not progress in something, and I found out the reason why is because I just didn't give it enough time and I didn't move along according to plan. So as I share my screen with you, the reason why I want you guys to write this note down is because there is this acronym that you're going to learn here within this organization that we are really promoting. And to be honest with you, this conversation has been had from the very jump of Mr. Suni Samad's belief system. So what that means is, let me see if I can share this in full and you guys tell me. I forgot, I'm on my other computer, so let me see if I can do this in presentation mode. Let me know if you guys could see the presentation. Give me a chat, eight
Yes,
in the
sir.
chat.
You're
Or
good,
okay,
brother.
perfect. All right. So the reason why you guys want to understand an index universal life insurance policy, I want to cure a mental problem today that I believe I also had at some point too. What that means is that when I came from final expense, guys, what I understood was multiple applications, 30, 40, 50. The reason why I write so many apps here is part of my previous disease. I want you guys to understand what I'm sharing with you. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but I'm telling you what I understood. I can write a lot of apps because I came from a space that says, hey, take it, move it forward. But those were 30, 40, $50 max $100 contributions. When you begin to understand the idea of a laser fund, and the reason why Brad Pham talks about concepts versus specific illustrations and strategies, because if you learn how to sell conceptual ideas, then you can win the masses. The disease that I want to cure for you guys, that I'm curing for myself too, because I'm also speaking to myself. You know who doesn't have the disease? Nick Rios didn't have the disease because he wrote a $12,000 premium on himself or on the idea of whoever that application was for. That means in one shot, he created $12,000 in revenue. And so let's ask yourself a question, right? Answer this question silently. If you wrote $12,000 in premium, and even if you were at a 40% contract and you walked away with $4,800, would that not fund your business, even if you wrote only one application for the entire month? If I did it at 70%, I'm now way off the roof and I'm way beyond my target. The laser fund says that if you understand that you can create liquid assets safely, earning returns, You just want to understand that the IUL is a contract. It's a contract. If you learn how to well explain it, it will meet a lot of the boxes that you need. The reason why you want to get to the academy and the reason why you want to become a student is because in business, what you're really doing is big business. Let me tell you guys why I sold one of my locations. The reason why I sold one of my locations, I instantly understood that my margins per customer was somewhere between 10 and 15 bucks. Right? So in order for me to make money in that space of laundromat location, I have to have massive amount of customers. All right, so I'm going to disclose something to you guys. 1 week here, I got $8,000 as a full cycle. So let's talk money today. If I got $8,000 in 1 week, real math, ask my equity partner, ask Miss Mary Grace. She actually is the one that sent me the reminder that I got the check, and it was coming in one of my cycles. So that means in 1 week, how many customers in the laundromat space would I need to have in order to make $8,000 in 1 week? This is the business that we're in. So it wasn't difficult for me to sell that location once I understood the math. So the reason why it was easy for me to sell that location eventually, it took me about 6, 7 months before I thought about it. And the reason why I did it is because I understood if I learned this business well a week, then I can make multiple. So that means my first ultimate check that I got excited about was a 42 cents check that turned one day into an $8,000 cycle for the week. I don't know if you guys are excited, but I was. The reason why you want to understand this is because I had to learn how to leverage this tool called the Index Universal Life. And if you begin to understand that this is a tax advantage strategy, it's not a life insurance policy. It operates within the life insurance world, but it becomes a tax advantage strategy that has multiple benefits tied to it. Now, is it for everybody? It can be. But it has to be for the person that has the ability to take advantage of the full benefits. Here's what I found out. So let's go full disclosure, guys. I've done a lot of sales here, and I've created a lot of revenue here. But the growth that I'm looking for is going to be built in the idea of me better understanding how to leverage this Index Universal Life tool and strategy, because you're going to quickly find out that it says the Index Universal Life is a flexible life insurance solution that offers not only a tax advantage, that means you can withdraw money tax-free. You can combine it with life insurance coverage. Why is that important? Because if my ultimate future is I'm buying time, in the event that time meets me earlier in the death conversation, because there's a couple boxes. While you're living, you're trying to generate income. While you're living, you're trying to make sure you can create a tax advantage. While you're positioning against time, there is this unfortunate situation that you cannot control called death. If death occurs because of the benefit of a life insurance policy that's tied to this structure, you can pay out a benefit to the beneficiary. Now, most people's beneficiary is somebody that they love. A majority of the people, unless you are some sort of settlement company, unless you are part of some sort of contractual agreement, unless you're a part of an employee situation, most likely the person who's on your beneficiary, if the person who's your beneficiary on your life insurance policy, if you do not have one, then you have an emergency, actually. I'm confident in now telling you that if you do not have enough life insurance on you at this moment, you have an emergency. Because if somebody within your atmosphere requires your financial assistance or your positioning to help them move forward, or they're counting on your capability to produce income, that means you have a major emergency. But let's not go there yet. This life insurance coverage is actually it's actually linked to growth tied to the stock market. So when you're talking to people, you can leverage this as a long-term financial asset. It's not a life insurance plan. It's a financial asset that you're building. See, the reason why people like myself in the past may have argued it it might have been a misunderstanding, and I needed understanding first in order to make sure to understand that, hey, the liquid capital part of this, it says the liquidity refers to the ease of access to cash or assets without penalties. Would anybody disagree that there is a way for you to access an IUL penalty free? And is there a way for you to get access to your cash? Can I get a little hard in the play so I understand I'm talking to everybody? You guys are with me, right? What that means is that this asset that you put in the form of an IUL has a liquidity point. Here's what I found out. I was telling Miss Wilhelmina today, I said, do you know why 403Bs are a possibility of liquidity? It's because the 403B structure, now that I put enough of them in place, I understand that now when people need to access their money, the only way they really can access their money is if they can borrow it or withdraw it. This is a 403B. Write this down, please. In a 403B, the only way you can access your money is to withdraw it, and you will guarantee yourself a penalty if you withdraw that money prior to age 59 and a half. And then the other reality in that 403B, nothing bad with it, but it's how it's set up. That 403B, if you need to borrow money from yourself, that's money that you put away tax-free, and you say, hey, 403B National Life, can I borrow $15,000? This is real life example. Well, that $15,000 is now borrowed. Not only do you have to continue your contributions, now you have an immediate payment. Immediate, because if you don't pay that loan back in the next 5 years, you will not only experience the tax penalty, but you have only 5 years typically to make that payment back. So what happens to a teacher or anybody who has a 401k when they borrow money? They are still making their natural contributions, and they just put an immediate liability of some sort of payment. In the IUL, if you understand the liquidity point, after, depending on what company you're dealing with, if you're dealing with National Life says, hey, I really can let you borrow money against this policy a year from now. So depending on how you funded it, but here's what I understood now when I was going through the presentation yesterday. If I'm an individual, real estate individual who wants to borrow money from my account, and I have $500,000 in that account, and I do it from my IUL, I pull out $100,000, I do not have a payment, I do not have a liquidity problem. I literally tell the company to send me money, and they say, yes, Mr. Augustine, did you want me to deposit it in your account, or do you want to send me a check? Most likely they're going to deposit in your account these days, and now you have access to $100,000 without any payment obligation. Which is better, right? Which means that it says the laser access, the laser fund ensures consistent access to your capital through flexible withdrawal options, allowing the policyholder to utilize their cash value while maintaining growth potential within their index universal life. What that means, Mr. Upton and Miss Tammy, I see you, and Miss Brittany, is that when you leverage your IUL for access, properly funded, and you're growing it, that means you don't have a payment option, because the company says, I'm going to give you my money and I'm going to use your IUL as collateral. Now that you don't have a payment, that means you got time. The other day when I spoke to one of the other staff members who had to borrow their $15,000, they had a $300 immediate payment due next month. If you borrowed it from your IUL, you do not have an immediate payment in that process or conversation. But guess what? The A in the laser fund says assets are growing wealth. That means while I borrowed the $100,000 or the $50,000 or the $15,000 from my IUL, my assets are still growing in my favor. The bank said, the contract says, hey, Hans, go ahead and leverage my money. I do have a little bit of loan payment tied to it. But while this is happening, your money is still growing in your favor. Which deal would you take? Would you take the 403B deal? Now, I'm not saying 403Bs are bad, but I want you to understand the structures. Did you want to take the immediate loan payment, or did you want to get some flexibility while your money is growing in your favor? As I begin to understand this as an asset, what was the other benefit behind leveraging an IUL? Well, if I leverage an IUL, I have some risks that I can mitigate. What that means is that I'm not directly tied to the market, but I have opportunities to grow somewhere between that 6 to 10, 11% factor. The reason why you guys have to become a student of the game is because if you do look at S&P 500 that's tied to National Life's product, or if you go to Columbus Life, I had a conversation with them recently. That product has an opportunity to get up to 11% in interest in a season. If we're tied to the S&P 500, and you guys already know historically that the S&P 500 has always had some sort of level of consistent growth over the next 20 years, unless God does something differently, there's a good chance that you're going to catch 6%. There's a good chance that you're going to cap out at 11%. There's a good chance that if the markets do badly, which it can be, which means that it can go negative. So the reason why they talk about variable accounts here in our education model is because in a variable environment, your money can grow 20, 30, 40, 50, even 50% if it was the right timing. But you can also take a 50% hit. So if you had the opportunity to share with your client that, hey, listen, our base case scenario in this environment, outside of the cost of insurance, I can safely position your money where if the markets were down, the worst case scenario is I'm only going to apply a 0% interest, not a 15% loss, not a 30% loss. Worst case scenario, hey, last year you had $11,100 in that account. Next year, we can't pay anything. You still got $11,100 that you could use. So the reason why you're able to create principal protection and create risk management is because there's a safety component tied to this product. It says the Index Universal offers a robust principal protection, ensuring investment remains secure against market downturns while still allowing for the potential growth through the index return. The reason why it's potential is because they can't guarantee, but if you guys know the historical financing numbers of S&P 500, they've demonstrated returns over a consistent period of time. It says risk management. The IUL incorporates strategic risk management features, including caps, floors, and different index structures that you can put it into. It says to balance out growth potential with a safeguard against loss and providing a peace of mind in uncertain market returns, basically, meaning that, hey, that means if you guys understand that markets are uncertain and that this year could be 30%, or 2008, there was a housing crisis that many of us within our age group of 50 and around that and up have experienced, that, hey, the markets went so negative that people lost their homes and they lost the values of their money that they might have had in other accounts that had certain risk features tied to it. A variable account could work, but it has a risk feature tied to it. A index account does not have a risk feature tied to it. It is just the idea that you might not catch any gains. That's your worst case scenario. But your best case scenario is you didn't lose the money you contributed outside of the cost of the structure itself, the contract. When you begin to understand earning, the earning has already been compensated, meaning that, hey, if the markets go above 0%, it catches 1%, and it catches 2%, it catches 3%, it catches 4%, it catches 5%, it catches 11%. Hey, well, if the cap says 11% and the market hit 20%, you just explained to your client, while I was protecting your money, I still gave you the potential of getting anything you can get at any bank. If you guys walk into any bank, the most a bank can do right now is 4%. That's it. 3.5%, and maybe for a year. In this environment, now that I understand better, in this environment, I can do this over a 20, 30-year period unless the caps change. You're paying attention to your product because you're meeting with your clients every 6 months. Because if you do meet with your clients every 6 months, they're going to reposition you for the confidence that you've given to them in being a trusted planner, and they will introduce you to more people. I just called somebody today, real talk. Hey, Mr. I won't tell you his name. I remember you said that you wanted to talk about your wife. He said, oh, yeah, let's meet today at 2:00. That's how you win in the business game of what we do, because you understand that you become the trusted professional, and I'm helping him gain more money because I said, let's review your policy to see how it's doing. Because I want to make sure that you're getting the highest market upside in the index products that we put you into. Because once you become the valuable person, now it says return consistent performance. Now that's what Laser says. It says Contractual minimum. Index universal life typically includes contract minimums that guarantee a baseline return, ensuring that your capital remains protected during the market downturns. So that means if you understand National Life, or if you understand Columbus, or any of the products that we're talking to, some of these products even have a minimum of 1%. If you put it in a S&P 500, it has a max of 9.25%. I'm not talking different. I'm just telling you what I've learned, that you can now position your customers properly. So that if worst case scenario, it says achieve steady returns. It says through diverse indexing strategy, IUL aims to achieve steady returns over the time, allowing policyholders to benefit from market growth while minimizing risk and creating a balanced financial approach. Why am I talking to the gentleman today? Hey, let's see what's been going on with your account. Let's make sure the returns are consistent and we're seeing performance. By the way, I thought we also needed to speak to your wife that you mentioned to me 3 months ago. I was following up. This is my 5th time following up with him. So when you're running business, if you automatically assume that it's going to happen tomorrow, even this says, hey, this is over the course of time, that I'm creating a consistent performance. Here's what I had to learn, guys. I'm giving you guys 2 leadership conversations at the same time and backing up what Mr. Samad said. The reason why you have to become the leader first, the reason why you must become the leader first is because you got to prove to your group that you can create consistent performance. Just like you're expecting it for the market. But guess what? Even the index universal life said, hey, you got to give me some time. But what you're doing with your time is you're positioning yourself in meetings like this to learn. I found out there is no better meeting than this meeting. There is no better meeting than a Spark. There is no better meeting than a OIC Monday night. There isn't. There's no better meeting than the TNT. Why? It's because during that meeting is where you are going to learn how to get consistent performance in your business. Because if you don't learn the consistent performance game, what you're going to do is become a transactional individual, which is fair. You're going to pull something away, but then you miss the entire boat. The reason why the last 2 years has been valuable for me is because even Hans Augusta needed to learn things on how he was going to increase the performance of his business. Because if you begin to understand that I've created returns here, but I want my returns to start capping out at 11% or better. It says laser plus benefits, comprehensive advantage. It says, here's the key things that you want to understand that we're doing outside of the idea that this plus really means tax advantage or tax situations. As you guys get to the academy that we're going to be hosting, or the calls that teaches you how to leverage this tool or this contract. Well, the contract says, well, Hans, if you do die, the death benefit provides a financial safety net for your loved ones. Now, I'm not accusing you of doing anything wrong, but if you do not have a life insurance policy on you, you are basically telling your loved ones that you really don't, I don't want to say it, but you might not care as much. Because I found out in America, you can spend money on whatever you choose to. You will choose to spend it on whatever you want to. You'll go to a Beyonce concert, or you'll put $20 a month or $100 a month in a policy, because that same Beyonce conference, as good as however people believe that might be for them, that is one moment in time, and she walked away with that check. Nothing's wrong with her. I don't have anything negative to say about her. What I'm saying to you is that I've seen people spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a one-time lifetime event. But meanwhile, they could have invested those dollars to protect against their family, or you could have been in a position where now I have access to living benefits. One of the things that I told my client last night, I said, here's the reason why we're putting this policy in place is because now I understand that I not only I did a term policy with her yesterday, one of my clients, and I said, hey, you're 57 years old. Maybe you're not ready to commit to the bigger dollar, but let's put $250 in coverage. You're going to pay $136 a month for your health. We're going to be able to convert your product into the future, into the permanent option, the whole thing, or C, worst case scenario, if you become ill, I'm going to give you access to living benefits. My organization works in the component that life insurance is no longer about death. It's for the idea that if these unfortunate circumstances, which I told Miss Wilhelmina, everybody in America will experience. Do you know why? Because if you really track your family, either somebody died too early, somebody got sick, or somebody needed emergency dollars to go take care of a car situation, unexpected events. I even told Miss Wilhelmina, even if you had a beautiful house and everything was fixed and the roof was organized and everything was in position, house was in clean, what if somebody walked into your driveway and was drunk driving and smashed into your property and crashed your door open? Now, I don't hope that to happen, but I've actually seen it happen. Or if you guys were watching the news and you saw in the city, hey, somebody's building a 32 plus floor, but for some reason they had to evacuate the entire area because somebody did not build that structure properly, which created an emergency event. And guess what that person needs is they need access to money. Because we can do that in these contracts, what you're really telling people is I can meet all of the benefit advantages in this particular contract. I can give you living benefits. I can even help you plan the future, which means that nobody wants to pass away. But in the event that something has, I'm going to now transfer this money to your family tax-free. Hey, what I told the client yesterday, the 250 that you now have in place, if something happens earlier, your daughter, I won't tell you her daughter's name, but I said, her daughter's name, I said, your daughter now will receive $250,000 tax-free. When you begin to understand the benefits, it says the laser client framework explains protection first. It has a tax advantage conversation, and it creates what we call a retirement income. Now, I don't know what time I have, but let me just make sure. 5 more minutes, Mr. Saman. If I want you guys, here's what happened to me last night. This is what happened to me last night. I realized it was magical. I've explained this 100 times already, but I understood something differently. Let me see if I can get my pen game on because I got my pen game on last night. I thought I was real fancy, Mrs. Saman. I pulled out my red pen. Guess what, guys? I don't know what color this pen is. I don't have my mouse, but I think it's red. Here's the funding capability that we talked about. In the real estate world, I can create an advantage for the average investor, or you can create the advantage for the average client. They don't need to be a real estate investor. They just need to be somebody who has a reason to figure out how to grow their money, how to protect their future, or position their dollars for growth. So this is an example of a 35-year-old who does have access to $500,000. And the question was, what can I possibly do to not only leverage my business as a real estate investor, but what can I do to also grow my money? Because you know what happens over the course of time is while this $100,000 is sitting in an account that might be a savings account that has no interest or a checking account that has no interest, what's really happening in the real estate world, if you guys understand it, anybody who's ever been in that space, is time is happening. Because they don't wake up and find property immediately. When I've been looking for property, it could be 90 days. It could be 6 months before I find the next deal. It could be a year before I find the next deal because I got to compete with the rest of the world. Well, what if you told your friend or anybody who's in this position that's in a business while your money is sitting dormant, let me show you a couple benefits. If we took $500,000 and we structured it over a 5-year period, what benefit would that create you? Number one, I'm going to create the benefit of accumulating your dollars in your favor by leveraging the opportunity of allowing your money to capture up to 11% in interest, or the average reality that we've seen over the course of time. Or B, I'm going to make sure that your dollars are protected so that when the markets go down, the worst case scenario is that your $93,000 is in place. But while you're running the game of finding property, here's what instantly happens. I'm going to position this dollar to do, number one, the ability to make sure that your family is not only properly protected, because as you try to build 22 plus properties, Hans Augustin, what's going to happen is that's going to take some time. If somebody had explained this to me correctly, what they were really saying to me is, Hans, if you don't get to the 22 properties and something happens to you, I'm going to pay out a benefit to Miss Lamika and all your children of $2 million. And guess what, Mr. Upton? That $2 million is actually tax-free. What that means is that I instantly create a legacy benefit. I instantly create a situation. But hey, nobody's interested in dying. That's why I survived kidney. I wasn't interested in dying. I was actually trying to survive. So, Mr. Upton, if I get to the 5th year of my growth in this policy, did I not create an additional $27,000 worth of interest? Mr. Samad, if I get to my 6th year, did I not create an additional $55,000 worth of interest? Assuming that I captured an average of 6%, but I could have captured even more up to 11%. Well, that's a bet that I might be willing to take because guess what? Worst case scenario, if I only had $409,000 in this account and the next year they paid 0% interest, would I still not have $409,000 in that account? Okay. So then guess what? My buddy says to me, "Hey, Hans, I finally found a deal. I've been kind of laying low. I got a deal. Can I get access to $100,000?" What do I say to him? Yes, in this 3rd year, you got $263,000 because you were letting your money nurture in your favor. Hey, surrender value is different from your accumulate. You really accumulate 297, but you have access to 263,000. And guess what? He says, "Hans, how much money can I get today?" You can get up to 263. He said, "I only need 100,000." He says, "How quickly can I get access to it?" Let's just make a phone call to the contractual company. They're going to send this to you in your account. It'll be here in 2 or 3 days. And guess what? He says, "Hans, do you have a required payment on this $100,000?" I said, "No, there's no required payment on this right now. I highly suggest that you figure out how to put it back because I know you're a smart real estate broker, so you could use the money again, but you don't need to make a mortgage payment on it. You don't need to make a contractual payment. But if something does happen to you based on the interest that you've collected on your 40, if you're 40 years old and this project did not complete, you borrowed 100 grand, they're going to take that from your death benefit." He says, "Hans, well, what if I now need to take cash? How much cash would I have access to? What age would you want to do that?" He says, "Hans, what about if I turn 54 as I started to continue to build my portfolio? What if I could take out money?" Hey, well, based on the value of $1.2 million in this account of growth that has occurred over the course of time, he now has built based on interest contributions, 0 periods, high periods, low periods. He's grown his money to about 1.2 million. What does this say? Well, you know what? I can proudly give you access to $106,000 per year. Hans, is that going to be taxed? Absolutely not. And I can guarantee the performance of this because my company guarantees, not Hans, the organization that I'm going to put you, that's 178 years old. That is a $1 billion organization. That is A+ rated organization is going to give you to guarantee. And you say, "Hey, Hans, what if I waited till 56? Well, we could do it at 115. What if I waited till age 69? We could do $143,000. Guys, let me tell you guys something. The reason why this became an epiphany even further is because I realized that I know what my margins are on properties. I had to create 22 plus properties to create a certain level of 6-figure margins in my space because there's expenses tied to it. So then what's the conversation here where somebody says, "Hey, well, is there an expense to the insurance policy?" Yes, there's an expense to the insurance policy. Why would there not be? It's an expense to my real estate portfolio. I have a mortgage payment. I got taxes. There's an expense in business. So why would I not be worried about, well, the cost of this expense is to make sure that I can give you $2 million. So when you don't see a full $100,000 in this account, what I'm really saying to you is that the other portion is creating a protection plan. I'm creating growth. I'm also creating liquidity in the account. And I'm also creating a tax-free income. And I didn't even talk about the living benefits yet. I'm getting my pen game together, so I'm doing with my top pad. If you could explain people that this correctly, now here's what my leader first conversation to you guys today is, and this is how I'm going to wrap up. The reason why I'm going to win, I'm not talking about you now. The reason why I'm going to win, the reason why you could also win is that you have to become the leader first. Kyrie, if I showed you how to close 2 or 3 policies a month and it was $500 in premium, if you did $1,500 times 12, how much would you bring home to your lovely wife and children? Mr. Upton, if I positioned you to understand the value now, this has to be over the course of time because, yes, there's a misunderstanding that you might have carried once before. There's a new understanding that you have to receive, and then you got to go and implement. That means if it took me to talk to 100 teachers a month And the only thing my 100 teachers could produce me was 4 people that said $500 4 times. Would I not produce income for my family? But you got to do it right. The reason why we do appointment 1 is because we got to discover your financial situation. Can you handle this load? Well, maybe we can't put you in this yet, but we'll put you in that. And now I got to understand the FNA because I got to find the financial picture. I can't be hungry. I can't be overzealous. I can't be underzealous, but I got to tell you the truth, ma'am. Yesterday, I told Mrs. Samad, I was talking to a young lady, and I said, why did you pick the Roth IRA? She says, Hans, I really just didn't understand it. Okay, Hans has to do a better educational understanding as to why he's going to show up to the academy to keep it simple to make sure that the person who could benefit 5 or 6 times from this structure understands why this could be beneficial. Now, can I force her into it? Nope. But what I could do is educate her. Here's why many of the leaders here are going to win. And the reason why I say leaders, I didn't say business directors. The reason why I said leaders, now business directors are leaders too, but you become a leader when you become the first person that decisions the conversation in your favor towards value. Now, Mr. Samad, I did my best to explain to the team as to why I'm going to win. But here's how I'm going to win, guys. Write this down, please, because now I see the signs of when people are ready to. I can't speak about it, but they dancing. See, the reason why the people who won here so far is because when they didn't want to show up to a wake up and win, they did. Because they might have missed this conversation that would have changed their life. And I know I did my best. I know I did my best today for what I know. That means if you were not part of this 21 people, and I think we had 23. If the other 2 people had to go do appointments, I get it. If the other 2 people went to go play, that's something different. But the reason why you get a chance to win in this space is because the business has nothing to do with transactions. The business has to do with how valuable do you become for your clients, and you say, hey, I'm the professional. Now, when professionals show up in the room, what that really means is that you become the activator. Now, how did I become a professional over the last 2 years? 2 years ago, somebody said, hey, Hans, you got to walk into the school and you got to say hello to a few people. You got to set up this table by yourself and you got to have some conversations. And then after I had that conversation in that one little lunchroom that they finally let me in after I had to walk to 8 different schools, and they said, yes, Hans, you can finally come. I took that one little school and I took 16 names that day. I think maybe it was 8 names. And I turned it into 6+ districts because the advantage has to be mine. Now, once I become the expert mentally in what I'm doing, I will have a 70 to 80, 90% closing ratio, like Miss Mary Grace says. It's because of the mental perspective that I've acquired in these rooms. Mr. Samad, the call is all yours. So,
Man, listen, masterclass. Let's give Hans some chat, some hearts in the chat, you guys. Listen, that was amazing. You know, it's funny. 2 things is, you guys listen. This is a no-brainer for me, right? No-brainer means you can literally remove your brain from your head and it still makes sense, right? This is a no-brainer, right? But what I think, Hans, also to the undertone of what you're saying in the passion, you guys, is if we don't, if we're just discussing this from a factual standpoint, we're missing it. You hear the conviction in what he's saying because he knows this could help people, right? And as he continues to serve, more light bulbs continue to go off, right? I'm looking at Mark's background. That was blank before the call. I don't know, Mark, if I don't know if if Hans's
We have
information
summer
doesn't.
interns, so just want to like Mr. Hans, thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that wealth of knowledge. Is that people are
yeah,
just so used to what's out there, but just
yes.
comparing real estate to our, the laser fund and IUL, like
Boom. Yeah.
so I'm
Boom.
about to go in
He
depth,
got up on a
like
whiteboard and just
we got
listen.
Thomas
I'm
and
about to come
Tobin
down to
here.
the hub. That's going to be an amazing training, right? But listen, you guys, the floor is yours. But I'll say this, you know, you have to sell yourself first. That's why we show up, right? This is amazing, right? You never arrive, we never finish. I know some of us feel like we're experts already in this space, but listen, always come with an empty cup. Always come with an empty cup, and there's always something new to learn. So I'm gonna turn it over for any feedback or comments before we wrap the call up.
Yeah, I wanna jump in
Yes,
real
sir.
quick.
Let's go,
Brother
Mr.
Hans,
Patrick Jones.
that was very, very insightful, right? A lot of y'all don't know, but when it comes to like numbers and illustrations and stuff like that, I turn into a nerd with this stuff, right? Like I really start to nerd out and just dive in deep into what like the product that we have. So being as though we have like a Miss Audra Curtin coming on who's really gonna show us the ins and outs of these things as well is just it's super powerful and I'm very excited for it. Based off of what you said, Hans, I had a couple notes. One is that this is an emphasis on why the F&A is so important, right? I'm starting to learn as I'm running more appointments that we have to hit an F&A because not only do we see how much protection that a client needs, but we can also get the maximum amount for them, right? Without leaving anything on the table and making sure they take advantage of this product, right? So that's what really stands out to me. And then two, this is a hybrid product. It could be used for retirement as well. So like the individuals I've been talking to, they want to retire early and they take that 10% penalty. But if they had funds in a product like this and they wanted to retire early, there wouldn't be a penalty, right? So I feel like that's super powerful for us as well. What else did I have? Yeah, so pretty much like in all of my appointments, I'm pretty much emphasizing the importance of the IUL, right? My aunt came to me earlier this week talking about retirement, and I just mentioned the IUL to her, right? Because it's just so powerful. It hits on so many bases, and I feel as though it just needs to be brought up in every conversation, whether somebody wants to do a Roth or an annuity, whatever the case may be, they should be looking into this as well. And I'll finish it. I'll finish, my statement with I was reading The Richest Man in Babylon today. That's the book I'm on. And one of the chapters that ends the chapter and it says, in this day behind the impregnable walls of insurance, savings accounts, and dependable investments, we can guard ourselves against unexpected tragedies that may enter any door and seat themselves before any fireside. And then it ends the chapter by saying we cannot afford to be without adequate protection, right? So it's having access to this I just feel as though it's super powerful and that all of our clients, all of our, the people we build relationships with should be introduced to this product. Because we'd be remiss to not introduce it to them. So that's just how I feel about it. So thank you for that, Brother Hans.
Let's go. Let's go.
Congratulations.
So says the person who just came to R&V and Company, got licensed in R&V and Company, right? Just hit associate, right? We making this thing make sense, you guys, right? And when you have the passion and the belief for it, you will talk to everybody about it, right? And I see Amanda, I see your hearts going up because we had a pretty extensive conversation about this yesterday, right? So I know this was right on time for you. So good stuff. Way to show up. It is 11 o'clock. We got time for one more person, you guys, before we wrap this thing up. Anybody else want to elaborate, share, weigh in on this information? All right, all right. Well, listen, uh, hey, sell out to the process, right? No doubt, fear, hesitation, or reservation, right? What people buy is your conviction and your passion before they buy the information. That's why we boss up and we have a boss up culture here, right? Because you, like Hans said, you have to lead first, meaning you got to get the protection first. You got to be able to speak to this from a place of first person, not third person, right? And so if you can speak to it from a place of first person, you will be unstoppable and you will go help a lot of families. Last note I want y'all to write down is go find somebody to serve. All right. Go find somebody to help. I appreciate it. Mark, good seeing you, brother. I might pull up on you. Uh, I'll let you know. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. All right, interns. Peace.
Take it easy, guys.